The movie begins with a car running into the slope, causing John Wick to get off it, injured. He sits down near the slope and begins watching a video, featuring himself and his wife Helen. And shortly after, he blacks out on the deserted road. Now, the story starts from scratch and we see John Wick turning off the morning alarm. He goes into the washroom and recalls the time he spent with his wife. Actually, Helen dies of a fatal disease in the hospital. Afterward, he attends her funeral, saying a final goodbye to her. At the graveyard, Marcus, an old friend of John, shows up and expresses his condolences for Helen, and asks John to turn over a new leaf, and after that, he leaves. John returns home, and at the same time, someone rings the doorbell. John answers it and finds a female delivery agent, who hands over a box to him. He carries it inside and finds a letter along with it. He opens it, and learns that Helen sent the box before her death. John breaks down, while going through the letter. Helen asks him to find his peace, as she has found her peace. He looks at the box, containing a lovely dog named Daisy. He uncages Daisy and takes it in both of his hands and starts looking after it, as it is the last precious gift from Helen to him. The next morning, John is awakened by Daisy, as it is hungry. Hence, John gives him a bowl of snacks and promises to give some kibble later. John quickly forms a close bond with his dog in a very short time. One day, he stops at a gas station to refuel his Mustang, and shortly after, another car pulls up with some uncivilized guys inside. Lozef Tarasov, son of a Russian mafia boss Vigo Karasov, takes a look at John's Mustang and begins to assess its value. When Lozef inquires about buying it, then, John curtly replies that, it's not for sale. Then, Lozef begins to misbehave with John, provoking a sharp retort from him. Before the matter gets worse, Victor intervenes and urges John to leave. One night, Daisy gets agitated and starts barking continuously, disturbing John's sleep. John thinks that his dog wants to take a crap, so he goes to let it go outside. All of a sudden, he is ambushed by some ruffians in the darkness. The attackers turn on the light and start assaulting John with a metal pipe, while constantly inquiring him about his car keys. John's dog hides under a table and whines upon seeing its master getting beaten up. One of the intruders catches the dog and kills it mercilessly. The masked man takes off his mask, revealing himself to be Lozef Tarasov, the one who aggressively dealt with John at the gas station. The mafia son leaves John physically mauled, and with the carcass of his dog, gifted by her wife Helen. John buries his dog outside. Lozef and his minions arrive at a local car repairing shop and asks Aurelio to provide him a new VIN number and clean papers. Aurelio asks him whence he got the car. Aurelio asks Lozef to get out of his shop with the car, as he has identified John's car in no time. He asks Lozef if he killed the owner of the car. Lozef answers that they didn't kill him but his dog. Upon hearing this, Aurelio gives him a blow, knocking him down. Lozef's minions pull the gun at Aurelio, but Victor intervenes and leaves with his men. The next day, John also makes it to the workshop and meets Aurelio and asks him if his car is in his auto repair shop. Then, Aurelio responds, it was brought here by Lozef, Vigo's son. John takes a car from the garage and drives off. Vigo, the Russian boss, calls Aurelio and asks him why he struck his son. Then, Aurelio reveals that his son stole John Wick's car. Additionally, he also killed his dog. Vigo also gets uptight and hangs up. Vigo calls his son and gives him a blow in the stomach and says you don't have any idea what you have done. The owner of the car isn't an ordinary man, but John Wick, the other name of death. Vigo reveals that John once used to be his associate, and he used to be addressed as Baba Yaga. John is a man of focus, commitment, and sheer will. I once saw him kill 3 men in a bar, just with a pencil. All of a sudden, one day, he gave up doing all this just for a woman. Just after the death of his wife, you stole his car and killed his dog. Now, he will come for you, and you can do nothing about it. So, get out of my sight. On the other hand, John is getting ready to take on his former job, which he had given up after falling in love with Helen. Vigo contacts John and tries to resolve the matter, but without a word, John hangs up the phone and prepares himself to avenge his wife. In the middle of the dark night, some mercenaries have been sent by Vigo to John's house to harm him. The attackers break into the house and begin searching for the target. However, John gets wind of it, resulting in being involved in a gunfight with the attackers. In the blink of an eye, John shoots down all the masked men came to kill him. Shortly after, a team of housekeepers arrive at John's residence at his behest. At John's direction, the housekeepers work diligently and start removing all the traces of the violent encounter, including the corpses of the assailants. In return, John gives Charlie a few gold coins. Vigo makes a plan to trap John and advises Avi to use Lozef as bait to trap John Wick. He says, "Lure the wolf with the hen." The next day, Vigo visits Marcus and asks him if he will kill John Wick for $2 million. Marcus pauses for a while and grabs his offer, saying, "Consider it done." Marcus starts grim preparations, arming himself for the Herculean task ahead. John arrives at a hotel, while Marcus keeps a close eye on John. John gets in the hotel and comes across Miss Parkins, one of his former associates. In his hotel room, John watches the video of his wife one more time, missing her presence in his life. Moments later, John approaches Winston and asks him to inform him about Lozef Tarasov. Then, Winston says, "Have you returned to the business again?" John responds, "It's personal." John comes to the counter and orders a glass of wine, and finds a clue on the bar counter about Lozef's location, sent by Winston. While searching for John, some goons of Vigo burst into the hotel and start looking for him. Lozef is enjoying himself with his friends, unaware of the fact that John Wick is hankering for his life. In the hotel, John ambushes Victor and asks him about Lozef. Victor reveals his location, saying he is downstairs in the bathhouse, and following this, John submerges Victor's head underwater in the sink, until he dies, and after that he makes his way downstairs. John comes down and starts snuffing out Lozef's guards one by one, and thereafter, he spots him, having fun with girls in the bathhouse. Lozef gets wind of his arrival on seeing the pandemonium around, and gets alert, while his guards are losing their lives by messing with John Wick. Meanwhile, Lozef gets away from there. John also goes after him, killing Vigo's mercenaries along the way. Lozef takes to his heels to save his life, wearing only a towel around his waist. John is also struck by a stray bullet during this affray. He approaches the hotel manager and asks him to send for a doctor to treat him immediately. Moments later, a doctor attends to him, stitches his wound and hands him a vial of pills for pain, and after this, the doctor leaves. In the other building, Marcus makes his preparations to hunt John, while John winds down in his hotel room to heal quickly. Marcus aims at John, but he spots another individual lurking around him. He mistakenly misses the target, alerting John. It is Miss Parkins, who launches an attack on John. Soon, both engage in an intense fight. Parkins puts up a good fight against John, and meanwhile, the hotel manager calls John, but he can't pick up the phone because of being engaged in a strife with Miss Parkins. After a grueling struggle, John manages to knock out Miss Parkins and asks her about Lozef's whereabouts. For fear of getting killed, she discloses his location, saying, "You will find him in a church in Little Russia." As a matter of fact, this is not a church, but Vigo's stash, where he has kept hidden all of his money in a vault, and after procuring the information, John knocks out the lady. The next day, John reaches the church and shoots the imposter father in his leg, injuring him. He grabs father and takes him to the vault, and gets the door unlocked by father by threatening him to kill. John gathers all the money at one place and sets it on fire, destroying it. Vigo with his men makes his way to the vault, but meanwhile, John shows up and opens fire on Vigo and his men, and in a split second, he successfully shoots down many of his guards. However, he is hit by a speeding car, resulting in his capture. In his hideout, Vigo has tied John to a chair, capturing him, and tells him that he destroyed all of his priceless things, kept hidden in the vault. Additionally, he tells John the most heart-wrenching thing, saying, "God snatched your wife because she had to pay for your deeds." John gets furious and threatens him to stay out of his way and hand over his son to him. Then, Vigo says, "You want to kill my son just for a trashy car and a dog of no use?" John responds that when Helen died, he lost everything, until that dog arrived in his life. "It was not just a dog but a final gift from my wife. I got a new ray of hope, but one day your son came and took the dog away from me, killing it, forcing me to become what I used to be. Hence, hand over your son to me, or ready to die screaming alongside him." Nonetheless, Vigo blows off his warning and leaves after ordering his men to finish John off. Vigo's men attempt to kill John by suffocating him to death, but meanwhile, Marcus shoots one of the men, saving John. Meaning, Marcus was never hostile to John, and in the hotel room, Marcus didn't kill John on purpose. He was just trying to alert John of Mrs. Parkins's presence around him. John frees himself from the clutches of the rest of the men and shortly after, he kills him. Subsequently, he gets out of the hideout and starts firing at Vigo's car, causing it to crash into another car, parked there. John takes Vigo at gunpoint and asks him to disclose Losef's location. Then, Vigo makes a deal with John: if he reveals Losef's location, John will let him go alive. John agrees. Then, Vigo reveals that Losef has been kept safe in a house at 434 Brooklyn Place. After getting the information, John immediately departs for Brooklyn to hunt Losef. Losef is heavily guarded in Brooklyn. However, one of the guards is struck by a stray bullet while playing a video game, signaling John Wick's arrival. John sets off an explosion, destroying the cars parked downstairs, causing several men to die in the explosion. Losef tries to run as fast as he can to escape John Wick. Nonetheless, he is hit by a bullet fired by John. He walks to him and blows Losef's head off, avenging his wife Helen, and after this, he departs peacefully. Under the Brooklyn Bridge, John meets Marcus and appreciates him for saving his life, while Ms. Parkins spies on them. On his way home, Marcus is surrounded by Vigo's guards. They forcefully take him inside his house, where Vigo is already present. Tying him to a chair, Vigo tells him he had a chance to kill John Wick, but didn't kill him, instead betrayed him. He beats him black and blue and inflicts pain upon him by stabbing him in his thigh. Marcus tries to fight back, but Ms. Parkins shoots him, wounding him. And afterward, Vigo rattles his body with many bullets, killing him. John returns to Marcus and finds him lying dead on the steps. On the other hand, Miss Parkins is also killed by Winston's men for breaking the rules of the Continental. Winston calls John and reveals that Vigo is fleeing by a certain helicopter at a certain helipad. John immediately leaves for the destination and tracks down Vigo and kills some of his guards in this encounter. However, Vigo crashes his car into John's car, trying to throw John's car off the port. Nonetheless, John jumps off his car just in time, saving himself. Both Vigo and John confront each other barehanded in the downpour. Vigo and John get into a fierce fight and Vigo manages to stab John. However, John retaliates, stabbing him back in the shoulder. Both the men collapse to the ground, severely wounded. Vigo says a final goodbye and dies, while John totteringly leaves the port. Now, the movie shifts back to the present time, when John is still lying on the road. Soon, he gets back to his feet and breaks into a pet shop. He grabs an antiseptic solution and pours it on his wound, then stitches it himself to prevent the bleeding. In the shop, he frees a dog, saying, "Let's go home."